Hi, my name is Clef. I am an aspiring game dev, and today is day 6 of my devlog. It is June 25th, and I have just completed Unity's Learning with Code. Um, it's Project 3, Sound and Effects. It focused mostly on implementing animations, sound effects, particles, all of that into a game. Obviously, this is prototype 3. I worked on prototype 2 Monday, posted video on that. Please watch that if you're interested. I do not have a video of prototype 1, mostly because I didn't think about actually recording that until Monday of last week. Monday of this week, sorry, not last week. I'm a little bit out of the sorts, I guess. But anyway, yes. This is prototype 3. It is a simple just side scroll runner kind of game where you're just having to dodge an obstacle. In this game I chose to use barrels, but yeah, let me show you. Load. Yeah, so obviously, as you can see, very simple, and yeah, it's not too bad. um I mean, it's not much, honestly. It's actually not much going around with it. Like, let me, for example, the background. As you can see, obviously, I was running for a very long time, and I was running for a good while, and the speed at which I was going, it looked at this and be like, yeah, that looked like it was going longer than it should have, and technically, yes, it was. Going into the code, this is why. Pretty much, this first set of code right here gets both the position and the width of the background. And then, as the background is moving to the left, it'll remember the starting position that it was at, and also get the width of, it will also get the width of the background. And pretty much once it has moved the width of the background, once it has moved its width, the program will then send it back to its starting position so that it can continue to go over again, simulating a kind of looping effect. Uh, Talking about that, here's the move left script. Pretty much takes both the barrels that I was jumping over as well as the background and just moved them to the left along the Z axis. And also along the way, just to make sure that my game doesn't get overcrowded and data isn't being used where it isn't on the unused barrels going past the player character, we have this part of the script, which basically makes it to where once it hits the left boundary box that I had set up behind the player, the barrels will get deleted effectively once they're off screen. And yeah, it's a that part was very simple, and it's very simple and very useful for simulating movement when there isn't actually any movement in the game aside from being going up and down with the player character. Let me go over the barrels now, I guess. With this spawn manager, very simple. This part just basically makes it to where, in way, I of course I can't type. Me noticing that after I already typed out these comments, get grief. But yeah, pretty much it was as simple of just spawning the barrels, and I just had it positioned to where the barrels would be in the way of the player, and then down here, it makes it to where the barrels will initiate. Wait, no, no, yeah, that comment was wrong. I was just kind of being like, oh yeah, no, this is how the barrels stop spawning, but no. This is like also part of just spawning the barrels. But yeah, no, it like it is pretty. This was pretty just simple code in my opinion. Of course, I say that, and I don't know. Other people might just see this and be like, "This is all technical jargon," and apologies. I guess I think differently. I guess. But yeah, no, that was Spawn Manager. That's just spawning of the barrels and all that whatnot. And then here, the absolute gargantuan amount of code that I actually had to type for just the player character. As you can see, this is all just very different variables that I was needing to set up that will also show up later on in the code down here. This is just getting the rigid body, the animation components, the gravity modifier, as well as the player audio. All of that stuff is stuff pretty much, it's just grabbing that information so it can store it for later when it is needed. So the first one is this. All of this is just focused on the jumping portion. So this input being me pressing the space bar, and then this part being that it needs to make sure that I'm actually on the ground in order to press spacebar and it'll actually do whatever, and it's not game over, so that in the case of I lose the game or just like run into the barrel, I can't jump while already dead. So yeah, player RB add force, that's just telling the rigid body, hey, add an upward force momentum of whatever the jump force is, and then pretty much that'll simulate me going up in the jump. Player audio, that is the sound played when it's just, all of this stuff is being activated at the same time, or deactivated at the same time, as you can probably see with dirt particle stop. This dirt particle stop right here. That is basically turning off that little particle animation when I was running. But then the rest of this gets updated, and then all of that stuff gets updated the second I press the spacebar. Or, I guess not the second, but the frame I press the spacebar. But, yeah, no, that's pretty much all it does. And then it, like that. And then this, I have two different collisions. One collision being with the player going back in contact with the ground. That reactivates the dirt particles and re-updates to the variable of me being on the ground being set to true. And then this one being focused on me hitting an obstacle, or as you saw in the game, a barrel. It'll shut everything off, because it'll shut the movement off it'll shut the movement and the spawning off for the barrels and the background. And basically it's pretty much just being like, since game over is not active, since game over is set to false on the other bits of code, like with move left here, you can see right here, game over, if it's move left, if game over is false, it'll make the screen move left. Pretty much that being set to true will make it stop the frame that it happens. Debug log, pretty much in the lower left again, it'll say game over. And then you'll see all this other stuff where I'll get set to death. I will play the death animation. It'll play the death audio. It'll play the explosion particle, the explosion particle, and it will again also stop the dirt particles because, well, the character is no longer moving. So, no point in dirt particles. So, yeah, that's all the coding backlog of it. That's updating because I ended up messing with the code again on a comment, so nothing should have changed. But yeah, no, that's the pretty simple part of it. This right here is something that I also learned today with animation. Pretty much all of this is the actual quote-unquote animation of it. So I have run static. The player model here, I want to say, is what all of that goes to. Or, yeah, let me look at the player model. Yeah, the player model had already all of this animation stuff tied to it. If I go to, source files is where I was seeing all of this. FBX, wasn't it? Yeah, so right here, all of these animations are saved. So this mask upper and this simple character 05, that is where all of that data was stored. But I was then able to go in and mess with it because at the start of it, this was just set to idle. So with it being idle, my character just wasn't moving at all. Here, let me go over here, set layer to default state, and then play it. This might... See? So as you probably saw that it started off with it started off a little differently, I guess. You saw that it went from idle to walk static to run static. But granted, since you're starting off at full speed, makes more sense to just start off and run static. And obviously, and that's kind of what it was. Coding, let me go to here. Yeah, right here. This, not that, actually. Player animation, get component animator. Wait. Actually. Huh. I guess I don't really understand how it... Oh, wait, hold on. Actually, let me probably look at the player... Animation, simple, call, update, transform. Jump force, explosion, death, dirt particle, gravity modifier. Huh. I'm gonna admit, I'm kind of surprised, because I have this as, yeah, saying this is the default. Moving that down, yeah, it plays that, and then it'll just continue to play that. And then it'll stop. Huh. So I guess it was already set to that. And me adding the... It was in player controller, yeah? Yeah. Public, animator, player animate. Player animate. Huh, okay. Yeah, I guess on start, that's what it's trying to do, is get the component for run static. Because then, yeah, this jump trigger, that's the animation for when I press spacebar to go into jump, and then same with this one, player animation set integer for when I run into the barrel, that causes me to go into the death animation. I will look into that. I don't fully understand why idle will automatically go into run static. I thought run static, it would, with it being run static, it would just like not move. But I guess I'm I am still learning, obviously. So there are plenty of things that I'm going to be wrong in what I understand. But yeah, that's something else that I learned today that I like that. Um, and yeah, no, that's pretty much it. It was another pretty simple day. I know I have two more. Yeah, I got two more animation. I got two more courses to do, so I'm probably gonna knock those out Thursday and Friday respectively. Hopefully, I plan on getting groceries tomorrow, and so I just need to kind of bang my head against the wall to make sure that I actually like do Project 4 on Thursday and not just hold off till Friday. But anyway, yeah. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and I will see y'all tomorrow.